There's a day I called Kibicho. I told Kibicho, the way things are moving, we need to act very fast. So he asked me, Babu, what do we do? I told him, Kibicho, we need to arrest Chebukati immediately for bungling elections. Do you know what Kibicho told me? Babu, wacha vita, wacha vita. Nikasema, what is happening na huyu mtu? Was this part? Was this? I'm telling you the truth. This man was supposed to be our person. Yeah. But what is happening? Is wacha vita. Nikamwambia, no, it is you to arrest Chebukati for bungling what? Elections. Then Cherera to announce Baba as what?
As one.
As the winner. You see. Or we go for
a rerun.
A rerun. Because the election is already being bungled. Hey, nikasema yenyewe this was a fake deep state.
There was a section of Azimio that over-relied on the civil servants. And they failed to appreciate and understand that the civil servants are transient in nature. They will move from this government to the next. Theirs is to be careful. They have to be very, very careful. They have really no loyalty to a government that is likely that whose term has come to an end.
The UDS side called it in court, they call it a tragic comedy. And in some ways, I agree with them. It was very tragic, you know, how a whole nation was taken for granted. And a game was played, you know, at a very high level, including by the international media, the international community.
There were like people who were saying, why did you allow Chebukati to announce these things at Chebukati, at Bomas? Why didn't you bomb it? Why didn't you arrest him? Why didn't you, you know, all those kind of things. And you can do those things. But who tells you that after that you have a country? What did it take Tunisia to lose a country for quite a number of years? Or Algeria? Just a hawker saying, I have had enough. And he set himself on fire. And that was the end of the country.
Immediately after the elections, the Azimio One Kenya Presidential Campaign Secretariat set up camp at the Kenyatta International Convention Center, where plans for a grand party were in top gear in anticipation of a positive outcome from the August 8th presidential poll. They were confident of a win.
At times I just sleep and wake up in the middle of the night, asking myself what really happened.
Did the Raila Odinga team rely too much on outgoing President Uhuru Kenyatta to deliver victory? Did Azimio then fail to pull its weight in the polls?
This election, we cannot blame Kenya Kwanza. We have to blame ourselves. Within our house, that is where the problem started. Personally, I knew now I would not be sitting in this office, Muredi. Right now, I would be serving Kenyans at a different level as a cabinet secretary, either for interior or education. But look at me now. I promised Embakasi East residents that I was going to give them jobs. Some were going to work in Garissa from Embakasi East, some were going to work in Kisumu, some were going to Nyeri, some were going to remain here in Nairobi.
Raila Odinga himself did not lose much as a person from the loss. But Kenya lost so much. Yeah. Raila Odinga is, without a doubt, the best president Kenya never had.
In the run-up to the elections, a number of key issues remained unaddressed, and insiders feel that could have played a huge part in the outcome of the election.
We went wrong the minute we dismantled some of those structures, because the campaign board was supposed to run practically everything. But then, you know, at some point, the campaign board was slowly dismantled by individuals who wanted to, who had their own agenda, let me put it that way. And then it became a more individualized, an individualized structure, a structure that depended primarily now on individuals as opposed to a group of people.
Lawyer Said Tabao Olekanchori, Raila Odinga's chief agent in the August 8th presidential poll, blames who he calls faceless individuals who ran the show and wanted their word to be law.
We could not have lost this election if it wasn't for three people. Three. The first one is Junet Mohammed. The second one is Joe Musheru. And the third one is Professor Makau Mutua. And I'll tell you their roles. And these are people I have worked with, and they're people I respect. But in terms of responsibility, they take the highest responsibility. Junet Mohammed, because Junet Mohammed is a one man who purported to know everything. And he nullified everything everyone else said. He also ensured that he kept the people who could have helped Baba, at arm's length. He ensured that nobody came close to Baba who would have helped him, because he wanted to be the alpha and the omega of the campaigns and of the agents management system. And Joe Musheru, because Joe Musheru was a saboteur. Joe Musheru had no other mission other than to sabotage the agents management system. He had no other agenda. He had no other mission. He came in to sabotage our agents management system. And he succeeded. And I'll tell you how he succeeded. He ensured that everybody who had a role, including, basic things like the people who were printing the letters that I signed, were his people. The people who were typing the names were his people, and they were under instructions not to deliver. And they ensured that they did not deliver. Very simple things like letters just getting to agents in time. Letters which I signed and which were taken away from the signatory myself. And they were controlled by Joe Musheru's people. And Joe Musheru ensured that the letters did not arrive on time. Of course, Junet Mohammed had his role also in the agents, in the mess, because these are people who did not listen to anything that anybody else had to say. They knew everything. They were know-it-alls, Then, of course, we had this pleasant man called Makau Mutua, Professor Makau Mutua, an exceptionally likable man, an exceptionally affable chap. You would never want to hang out with a better guy, with anybody else. I think if I was having a drink, I would never want to have a drink with anybody other than Professor Makau Mutua. A likable guy, you'll never quarrel with him. But the day that Musheru, Junet, and others came and said that Makau Mutua will be in charge of the command center, is the day that everything went south. Because Professor Makau Mutua, I have described him in my book, by the way, Ken. I've told you I will not tell you everything. I will only give you the tip of the iceberg. If you want the rest of the iceberg, you have to read my book. I have described Professor Makau Mutua in my book as as a deaf, mute, blind mouse. Yeah, that sees no evil, hears no evil, says no evil. And that's the kind of guy he is. Everything that went wrong, he kept brushing it aside.
Former ICT Cabinet Secretary Joe Musheru has distanced himself from the claims against him, noting in a message that it is on record that 99.96% of polling stations transmitted their results. It is also on record there was full uninterrupted media coverage of the elections and the Supreme Court proceedings. Media and connectivity for results transmission were my only national responsibility, and of course, I actually voted in Ngatha Nursery School in Nyeri's Thegu River Ward.
Tumejipanga na tunamulika hawa torch kila saa. Wakikata kona tunakata na hawa. Wakikata hivi tunakata na hawa.
Suna East Member of Parliament Junet Mohammed, a key member of Odinga's inner circle, refused to comment on any matter on camera. Odinga's spokesperson, Professor Makau Mutua, did not respond to our calls.
The only person that Baba would listen to without question was Junet. So even if you had the truth, and the truth was as clear as day, and you tell Baba this is the truth, and Junet comes with darkness and night, and you're saying this is day, and it is clear, and Junaid comes with dark and night and dark, and he says, no, this is the day. Baba will say this is the day.
One of the biggest questions that has been posed to date is how the Azimio One Kenya systems run. Did they have party agents? And if they did, was there a plan to manage them through a central command? All this to guarantee a smooth operation.
And we had a very well laid out, elaborate plan. We had, of course, at the national level, we were there, and we had a team of people who were going to help us. We had, now at every county level, we had coordinators. We had legal, one lawyer, and one non-lawyer. One lawyer, one political at every county level. One lawyer, one non-lawyer, political at every constituency level. So we had 47 lawyers. We had 47 politicians at every county level. Then we had those who are called the county chief agents, and then we had the constituency chief agents.
Si wenyewe kutoka pale polling station ndio ulikuwa unasikia Chebukati akisema tutahesabu kura kutoka huko pahali ulipigia kura wewe, hiyo ndio kura tunahesabu hapa Nairobi, kwa sababu alijua Raila hatakuwa na agent wetu. Nataka kuinsist hapo, hatakuwa na agent, na niko na evidence ya kuonyesha wa Kenya. Nilienda county 3. Ukienda every polling station ukiuliza unaambiwa wapi agent wenu. Na Raila alindanganywa na hao watu wanajiita maloya professional. Wale walindanganya Raila hawakuwa watu wako, walikuwa watu waunda. So walitundanganya siku ya kuamukia kupiga kura, wao walijiondoa wakashinda, walienda wakapigia Ruto kura, wakarundi kulala. Kwa hivyo haukuwa na agent.
The Azimio agents were also very poorly managed. There was a team of lawyers that were put to look at the agents. It was not clear as to whether the lawyer was managing the agents or he was supposed to ensure that he corrects information that could help in a court of law. So again, there we mismanaged our agents.
Agents were supposed to be in Central. Do you know the reason why agents withdrew from their work in Central? They were agents. But agents were told that they were going to be paid in batches. At different times, in different proportions. In the morning, they were supposed to be sent money. In the afternoon, being sent money. At the time of counting, being sent money. But in the morning, intentionally, money was not being sent. What do you do as an agent? You say that these people have duped you. They were agents. But these agents were not paid. But the person who was paying these agents, I will not name the name, but I know, we all know. It's not even from our side. The person who was supposed to pay the agents was from Uhuru's side. You see? And this person intentionally refused to pay these agents. Intentionally. Then agents decided to withdraw because we are not being paid. We were hired to work, we are not being paid.
Many places, especially in Mount Kenya, our agents, some of the areas where we had agents, they were given money at 6 a.m. and told, you guys, you have been paid for the day, you can go home. And they went home by the competitors, yes, by the agents for the competitors, and in some cases by presiding officers. We have evidence. Presiding officers were given money, and they were giving agents, and agents will go and have some meat as the election was happening.
The ROs were not keen to have Azimio agents in the polling station. I'll give you an example of one station at Karatina, where when the tallying got underway, town, Karatina, and Raila had 402 votes. The agents of the other parties have continued to tell us today that when we got to their votes, Azimio votes, they said, Naizi, that is now the PO. These 400 votes, 402 votes, na mwenyewe hatumuoni, mnataka tufanye nini naye? Weka kwa Ruto. 400 votes were put into UNDA, 2 were left with Raila.
We have to clean up the names. There is something they were calling, I think, vetting of the names. Supposedly take it through intelligence and all this. And that process bogged us down for weeks and months. And eventually, every day we will come and say, no, we are quick, start afresh, and up to 2 weeks to the election, 10 days to the election, we still had no clean names, so-called clean names, the ones who are saying they're cleaning up. And so the whole idea was just to push us closer and closer to the election day without preparation.
Former CS Mosheru further disputes assertions by Said Tabao, dismissing him, saying, "It is interesting how facts come in the way of the truth. He was the chief agent responsible for all agents, period. I was not." Then there were allegations that a group of people mismanaged funds meant for party agents. There are claims that the lion's share of the money ended up in some people's pockets.
People are fighting Junet for no reason. I can tell you for the truth of this matter. Do you think the money that was meant for the agents, do you think that money was commensurate to what Junet would have been in Baba's government? Do you think Junet would have left this election just to go so that he forgoes his dream in Baba's government? Probably could have even made more money in Baba's government than that money for the agents. But there's always somebody who must always carry the cross. That is why that cross was put on Junet's back. If you eat with the devil in the dark, use a long fork. Use a long fork. Mimi, story ya Uhuru, when it comes to this election, Mimi staki hata kusikia. Let him have his relationship with Baba. But me as a person who was involved at the center of this campaign, being at the presidential campaign team, I was campaigning from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. 5 days for Baba, and only 2 days in Embakasi's constituency.
As far as I know, there is no one who took even a coin of money that was meant for agents. Because the way the system was designed, every shilling was coming from a central place, which I do not know where it was, and going straight to the accounts of the designated agents. So if there was a way that they did it, some of the ones who maybe were running that system, I never saw.
By the time a decision was made that Raila Odinga should run for the presidency for the 5th time, there had been growing disquiet with Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, reluctant to support a Raila Odinga presidency for the 3rd time.
Ya ushujaa wake.
Kalonzo said he felt betrayed one too many times by Odinga and his Orange Democratic Movement. When they started out in the dying embers of the NASA coalition, the group included Moses Wetangula, Musalia Mudavadi and Kalonzo, who were in the loosely formed One Kenya Coalition alliance. Mudavadi and Wetangula then bolted out to join William Ruto in what they coined Kenya Kwanza alliance, citing dishonesty in their engagement with former President Uhuru Kenyatta. Kalonzo may have stayed back, but there were major trust problems.
I would be the most stupid fellow on the earth to go and support the 3rd time a presidential candidate, all right, without a measure of reciprocity.
Kalonzo had demanded that he must be Raila's deputy at the very least, and on March 12, 2022, there seemed to have been an agreement between Raila, Kalonzo and Uhuru Kenyatta, and Kalonzo supported Raila once more.
Kwa roho safi, Wakenya nasema Raila Odinga tosha mara ya tatu.
However, even with the agreement in place, squabbles within the Azimio One Kenya coalition did not end, as Kalonzo insisted he had been promised the position of deputy president. All this time, the coalition focused more on sorting out internal squabbles than campaigning.
We took too long to gel or to come together as a coalition, Azimio coalition. We left it too late. You remember until the last hour, when we were dealing with the deadline from IEBC, we still had Wiper out there not certain whether they are with us or not with us. And for that reason, we were not able even to field candidates under the Azimio ticket. Every party, while we were part of the coalition, every party had to feud using their own colors and tickets and slogans. And that is not useful when you have a presidential candidate.
On the other hand, Embakasi East MP Babu Owino believes President Uhuru Kenyatta played Raila and had no intention of making Raila president.
Mheshimiwa Raila Amolo Odinga.
A position that has been rubbished by other Azimio believers as a mere conspiracy theory.
Why would Uhuru and Ruto fight if in 2002 Ruto stood with Uhuru against all odds? 2013 Ruto stood with Uhuru against all odds. 2017 Ruto stood with Uhuru. And they also went to ICC together. So what is it that went wrong between the two? Nothing.
Those people you see going out there to insult others, that is a camouflage most of the time. It's a camouflage. The real agenda, you know, even the person who is being insulted does not care about the insults. He cares about the outcome. You know, and when you have, you know, an agenda, you can use any means to attain your agenda, including, you know, such to distract people. You know, it's a smoke screen that prevents you from seeing the actual underhand dealings.
On the morning of March 9, 2018, an unprecedented political cooperation deal between Kenyatta and Odinga was announced on the steps of Harambee House. On this day, President Uhuru Kenyatta left his deputy and other aides and drove to Harambee House to meet ODM leader Raila Odinga, who also did not inform his principals in the NASA coalition of the meetings, and the famous handshake was inked. There are those in Azimio who think Deputy President William Ruto found a cause to play opposition within government, while in NASA there was a feeling Raila only cared for himself and his interests.
Handshake had been again demonized throughout. We took less time trying to deal with the issue of demonizing and the propaganda that was put aloud, and assumed that Kenyans themselves would be able to tell between what is right and what is wrong. Over time, they swallowed the bait. And it was very difficult for us to deal with the issue of handshake as we were doing the campaign.
The one thing that cost us the election, Ken, the one thing was the handshake. In terms of what? Because the handshake brought a lot of negative things that we could have done without, including the burden of incumbency, and also including a rotten Jubilee structure that was crumbling, and the mistake that the likes of Junet, and this I say with a lot of authority, because Junet collapsed the ODM structures. I will say it in any forum. The ODM structures for election management, he collapsed them, and he took us almost forcefully to the Jubilee structures. And he told me many times that, no. Every time I will try to tell him, but we have our own structures as ODM. He told me, Kanchori, what is wrong with you? Those were his words. You know, he was very commanding at times. Kanchori, what is wrong with you? These are the people who have failed us. These people cannot deliver a presidency. We will deliver it using other means. So you know, at the time, of course, Junet was essentially a co-principal.
Has also blamed the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission over how it ran the election, accusing the chairman Wafula Chebukati of being an authority to himself.
Then why did we have to go back to elections with Chebukati as the chairman of IBC? Why did we have to go back with him? We proposed in Parliament to remove Chebukati as members of Parliament, but we were told we will handle Chebukati. The same deep state, in quotes, told us we will handle Chebukati, so stay still. So we said, okay, let's stay still. Of course, they say that there's a quote that says that if you're walking and you don't meet with the devil, know that you're going in the same direction.
I think this election was already predetermined. Chebukati already predetermined who was going to be the winner of the 2022 presidential election. And I think time will tell that Raila Amolo Odinga won the election. One other thing which is a bummer is the fact that, or a bummer, is the fact that 8 million people did not vote for this election. Only about 15 million people voted, 15.9, where we had the 7 million and the 6.9 people. But the truth of the matter is that this election was already predetermined.
Launching the BBI.
The handshake gave birth to the Building Bridges Initiative, BBI, in a bid to unite the country. But the question is, was the BBI where Azimio lost the election?
We lost an election when we lost BBI. If you ask me, all these others were just some additional information about losing the elections. But remember, when BBI was brought, BBI was a very good document, but BBI was a document that was designed to fail.
From the onset, Ruto set out to fight the document and traversed the country campaigning against it.
Every other big political party and a small political party in this nation were all supporting BBI, and they signed. But the moment BBI failed, we started experiencing mass exodus from our side. That is the time our Speaker, Wetangula, left. That is the time Honorable Honorable Musalia Mudavadi left. That is the time the Speaker of the National Assembly, within that period, left.
We would want to have that discussion on everybody's role, what was promised and what was delivered. Because from where I sit, an increment of 500,000 votes on what Raila got in 2017, given the effort that was put in Central Kenya, given all the resources and the time was spent there, is not a good return on investment. So I invite the SG of Jubilee, Honorable Kioni, to have this discussion with us. We are more than happy to have it. Let them tell us if they have decided that they want to chart another path. That is also okay.
In the Mount Kenya region, which had been earmarked as a vital battleground vote basket, Ruto won big. Mismanagement of the campaigns to messaging on the BBI and other key political issues have been blamed for Azimio's dismal performance.
In Mount Kenya, the other thing that also happened in Mount Kenya was that there was more of selling what Uhuru has achieved, the development achievements of Uhuru and his legacy. And that those who had the responsibility took long to appreciate that when you are doing a campaign for an election, you don't deal with the development, you deal with what is the future, the promising that were done. In Mount Kenya, again, the campaign was never between Ruto and Raila. The campaign remained between Ruto and Uhuru. And that costed us the passion with which people come. And that also made it very easy for us to have lost it through the steal. Our messaging, we concentrated on kind of a moral ticket, a ticket in integrity, a ticket that is going to fight corruption. Now we know Kenyans have little respect for issues of integrity, issues of morality, of even you cannot win an election because you are going to fight corruption.
The presidential poll loss seems to have caused friction inside Azimio. Lawmaker Babu Owino strongly believes that Kenyatta's support was a charade that played into what he calls a long con game.
If you eat with the devil in the dark, use a long fork. Use a long fork. Mimi, story ya Uhuru, when it comes to this election, mimi staki hata kusikia. Let him have his relationship with Baba. But me as a person who was involved at the center of this campaign, being at the presidential campaign team, I was campaigning from Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. 5 days. for Baba, and only 2 days in Embakasi's constituency. Aya, let me ask you, Matiang'i. Matiang'i was part of us. At what point did Matiang'i apply for the job of the United Nations, went for an interview, won and was passed, and when election results were announced, he was already called to go and work? How did he know we are going to lose elections? How did he know we are going to lose elections? You see, Muredi, all these things, these people were playing around with Baba.
People were lying to Baba. People from Mount Kenya were lying to Baba about the actual situation on the ground. That in fact, we were being told we could get this 40% when they themselves, some of these people who were speaking, knew that even they themselves were going to lose. They knew it, but they were lying to us. And then I hear them saying they are suffering because they supported Raila. No, they are suffering because they lied to Raila Odinga about the true situation on the ground in Mount Kenya. That is just the God honest truth.
It would be a little bit hypocritical of any one of us to suggest that anybody in Azimio is to blame for us for the outcome having come out the way they did.
Kwa hiyo ya 2022 naweza sema ile mafunzo imenifunza si kama 2017, kwa sababu hii ya 2022 si watu wa Azimio tulikuwa tushinde, lakini si wenyewe tukaachilia kura ikaenda na wale juu, wale walikuwa strong kutoka chini, kutoka MCA mpaka president. Tunaye unaenda unapata gavana anazozana na women rep. Unaenda unapata MCA asikizani na MP. Sasa tungeshinda aje? Hata kama ni nini tunafanya. Watu wanachosana hapa. Wale nao wako mshibi. Mtu anaongea lugha ya yule mwingine. Na hiyo ndio ilifanya tuanguke.
One thing the Azimio One Kenya leaders we spoke to agree to is that President William Ruto outsmarted them.
But what I must appreciate about Ruto, he met me in parliament. He asked me, Babu, do you believe that now I'm the president? He asked me. I told him, ulitushinda na akili. Yes. That man is a sharp man. We cannot underrate him. I can tell you, Muredi, the day I saw Ruto in parliament, and he asked me a question that, Babu, sasa umeamini mimi ni rais? And I told him, His Excellency, ulitushinda na akili.
Raila Odinga, however, says the game is not over.
Never lost. Never lost elections. Okay? So I don't understand what these people are talking about. Okay? The jury is still there. And watch this space. Okay? Watch this space.
Kennedy Muredi, NTV.